should be anyway. No sleep. All right. I'm gonna mess with the camera again. Oh yeah, with the microphone. Oh yeah, that's right. Microphone. You have to have a microphone to do this shit. Did you enjoy that? Yeah, I hope so. It's just part of the charm of the whole experience. Uh, anyway, so much to get to, but I don't know. It's people. So I've been arguing the text with this guy about this whole. Yeah, I think it's live. I think I have the sound off. I guess I might as well turn that on in case somebody shows up that's worthy. Hmm. Still no sound. Interesting problem. Oh, I haven't caught up yet. No, that wouldn't be it. A settings problem, no doubt. It says I have sound here. Why don't I have sound here? Hello? Testing? Testing? No, that wouldn't be it. Oh, there we go. Settings problem, no doubt. No, the volume's way down. Sound here. Why don't I have sound here? Okay. Well, that seems good enough. It'll have to do, as they say. So, anyway. Yeah, I don't like this angle much, but we'll work with it. Yeah. I guess if I draw a picture, I'll have lots of room to put the picture over here. That kind of thing. I guess I should get a little drawing board or something. But anyway, yeah, it seems like that more of the pain in the ass that needs to be. So anyway, so there's this whole, well, I guess I'll read this comment because it's a Miles Mathis focused comment. But, I want to get to this ball rolling thing experiment and the fact that they're not even using a formula relevant to anything. And they're just, they're being just fooled. As I was in the past. I mean, I didn't pay any attention to what angular velocity meant. And apparently, it just means that you calculate it in these stupid radian things, degrees of arc. And, but it's the same thing. It's just conversion into a different unit. It's just a different way of measuring how much something moves in a circle. It just doesn't have anything to do with calculating anything. It's a conversion unit. You want to convert meters into arc. And so they're not even using a formula that's relevant to the thing they're using it for, which is somehow to presume that we can compare the velocity of, let's say, a cat running across the lawn, and then we're going to use that and compare it to the velocity of a cat running up a tree. And you can do that, but you have to do that with a real equation. You can't do that with just a conversion equation. You can't just say, well, the units when it runs up the tree we'll call running up the tree units, and across the ground we'll call meters. And so yeah, you have a formula to convert the two, but that doesn't mean it's going to predict for you how fast the cat will run up the tree. Maybe one of you got what I just said. Anyway, all right. So I'll get to that last comment last and do the Miles Mathis shit first. Who I've just barely, basically, he creates all this controversy. Like I said, he's a big truther guy, and he has a million articles that are just nonsense. OJ didn't kill his wife, all that kind of wacky shit. Big conspiracy theories everywhere. Son of Sam killed Kennedy. Who knows? I mean, just wacky shit. And he does it with this physics and with these manipulations of perspective, and they're just card tricks. And so the big card trick here was using a fake conversion formula and pretending it was a formula that would tell you what the speed of something would be in a circle by measuring its speed going linearly. So this speed would somehow tell you this speed. And the formula has nothing to do with making that calculation. And I'm just amazed that I spent quite a deal, I've made comments in the comments section trying to argue with this guy who I thought was sort of sincere, but it's clear he's not sincere. He's just going to keep pretending he can't understand conceptually what I'm saying, and I just don't know. I just don't believe it. So it's just like they really just don't want to know the truth. And they certainly don't want to admit they're being deceptive. And that's all they're being. It's deceptive. So anyway, so Miles Mathis is a cunt, and these damn assholes are cunts for bringing him up here. And like I got some obligation to treat him differently than I treat Brian Greene or anybody else. I'm allowed to put the asshole I'm going to talk about in the title of my video. It sort of makes sense. If I'm going to critique an asshole, it sort of makes sense to put their name in the fucking title of the video, you fuckheads. I mean, shit. Anyway, you are not Miles W. Mathis. You should clear that up, sir. Why should I clear up anything? Again, I mean, here we're talking physics, and you fuckheads can't figure out that in every video where I mention Miles Mathis, I talk about him as another person, and I'm talking about him, generally speaking, derogatorily. You have some expectation that you're going to understand physics, and you can't even understand that? Man, you're really goddamn dumb. So you mean every time somebody talks about Richard Nixon, been dead for like 40 years, they should preface it by saying, I'm not Richard Nixon? What are you, retarded? As you having his name appear up there makes it seem like you are him when someone does a search. Well, I've now cleared that up because I'm now going to title the videos and the jerk Miles Mathis, or regarding the jerk Miles Mathis. Okay, so I'll just add the word jerk before his name. Okay, and then it'll be clear that he's not me, right? Because no one would be calling themselves a jerk in their own fucking video. You fucking asshole. All right, so I'll delete that one. Useless tripe. DraftScience. Miles is a nice person. Well, it's not about whether he's a nice person. He's a shitty physicist, okay? And he really is a nutty fucking truther who's just adding noise to conversations. He's not informing anybody of anything. He's just confusing subjects by playing games with words and images. And if you hadn't posted vlogs with his name on it, or as you are now sort of calling him down for his work for not finishing his paintings, I made one reference to that, you cunt. And again, that's my prerogative. I'm allowed to reference public documents on the internet, asshole. He's making bold statements. Somebody has a right to critique that, you shit for brain. I think it would have been glad to offer advice. What kind of advice exactly? Well, what advice was I soliciting from a guy who's fringe and seems perfectly satisfied to stay there? He also seems like a huge coward because he doesn't seem to want to do any public defending of his bullshit. So exactly what advice would I be seeking? Point is I'm the one who emailed him first. Before I even mentioned his name, I did email him. All right, so this whole thing with you is just bullshit, okay? I emailed him. He basically said, I'm not interested in any kind of communication, and that was it. So what can I say? I said, look, we have a lot in common. I'm doing this physics thing too. I think my physics might be compatible with some of your physics in the sense we both know that Einstein might have been fucked up, and we know that the conventional physics isn't quite right, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he basically just brushed me off and said, fuck you, I'm doing my own thing. So what can I say? Doesn't matter. I mean, I'm glad in hindsight, because like I said, once I saw his Miles W. Mathis website, not his Miles Mathis website, but his Miles Mathis, mileswmathis.com, and saw all of his truther kook theories. Yeah, he's not worth the trouble. Anyway, this is me speaking, but I'm sure Miles would have corresponded with you generously had you not posted his name. So when people do not search, you come up. So when people do a search, you come up. Well, again, that's not my bad. The fact that he doesn't do anything on the internet besides his website, well, that's his choice. I mean, I can't do anything about that. And again, it would be silly for me to be doing a video about a person and not put their name in the title of the video. Silly. I did a search for Miles as I lost his website. Well, I don't know how you could lose his website. It's his fucking name, retard. And your picture came up. Again, so what? I'm sure a lot of other stuff came up too. I'm sure his website came up. I mean, I'll do it right now. You're telling me that if you type in Miles Mathis at Google, you're not going to get milesmathis.com. It's not going to show up. You're not going to have any idea who Miles Mathis is. You're going to think it's the guy in the picture. Is that what you're saying? That's your argument? Well, it's lame as fuck. That really isn't fair. Well, go complain to Google. Do you think it is? I don't think Google is a very good search engine. I've complained about for 10 years. I've written on the subject, done extensive videos on the subject. So I guess I'm doing something to fix it rather than whine like a baby like you little weaselly cunt. What if somebody started posting on YouTube DraftScience? Well, very good. Excellent. And they're going to do a critique of my science? Even better. Yes, I critiqued his fucking goddamn paper, you retard. I was on subject, fucknut. You wouldn't like it. No, I would actually love it. I search every day for videos with my name in the title. Every fucking day I'm looking for some cunt to make a rational argument. And instead all I get is this pussy shit from weasels like you. Many people try to hack Miles. Well, I didn't hack anything. Stuff are discredited. Many people try to hack Miles' stuff. Well, I don't even know what that means. What's his stuff? A lame website. Are discredited. Or take the credit, such as you seem to be doing. How exactly am I taking the credit? I mean, that's just such a fucking pile of shit. There was no indication in any of the videos where I did anything to pretend to be Miles Mathis. I pointed out right in the beginning of the videos, I'm talking about Miles Mathis. I'm talking about another fucking person's goddamn writing. I'm quoting from his goddamn writing. How the fuck can you call that impersonating somebody, you stupid lying cunt? I mean, you're lying now, right? So you're proud of that? You're proud that you're a fucking liar? Ugh. That's not very nice, is it? Well, lying isn't very nice, you weasel. And you don't look alike, sir. Well, that's kind of silly because even Miles Mathis concedes that, well, we do have some similarities, okay? So you want to pretend that what percentage of the population has longer than a foot blonde hair? It's not exactly 50%. Is it, jackass? Anyway. And we're around the same age. I mean, as I pointed out in one of my videos, I actually have a picture of me as a kid where you're not going to be able to tell us apart. Had I not stopped to listen to this video where you are, whatever this is, fluctuating, I don't know what that means. It seems between calling him a genius and then whatever you are knocking him about, his not doing, or whatever you are alluding to. Oh, you mean him being full of shit. Okay. I thought you were Miles first too. Well, that just proves you're stupid as fuck. Because again, you're going to have to prove it to me that there's some possible way for you to think I was Miles Mathis when I'm talking about him as if he's another fucking person. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't get on the video going, I'm Miles Mathis. Nothing even close to that, retard. All right. And I can hear Miles posted on his site that you were not him. Yes, I saw that. But I guess some people didn't see it. Well, again, if they're supposed to be reading physics articles and they can't see a paragraph just sitting there saying, hey, notice there's a guy on the internet. Yes, that makes physics videos that doesn't think, that disagrees with me. He could have even said that, but he didn't even say that, right? Instead, he said some sort of bullshit like, I don't know this person and all this kind of crap, like that means something. No, I'm on the internet and I do physics videos, cunt. That's why the channel's name is DraftScience. Oh, fuck you. Just such bullshit. But I guess some people didn't see it. Well, again, I don't think most people need to see it. This isn't that complicated. Again, if you're so stupid that every time you go on the internet, the first thing that comes up on the Google search you think is the only reference, So you think because somebody does a story on a news story, or somebody wrote an article about somebody, they're the person that wrote the article. I mean, I can't believe you're really that stupid. Hope you take this into consideration, as you do want to get commendations. I don't even know what that is, from all the hard work you do on your merit, don't you, Gary? My name is Gary, not Gary. So you can't, you don't even spell my name correctly. Be well. Well, fuck you. I really don't need your fucking critique. I committed no crime. I didn't trespass against anybody. I didn't go outside of any rational protocol here. So all of this crap is just that. It's fucking crap. So shove it. All right, enough of that crap. Ugh. All right, so this guy says, it seems rather odd that the ball rolling in the straight tube goes 4 times the diameter of the ball going through the circle tube, not 3.4. Well, again, why would you, this fact that people think it's odd, so I want to get into that part because that's the funny part, right? In gravity, it wouldn't be odd at all, okay, because the two speeds wouldn't match. You would go just as fast in a straight line as you would in a gravitational loop, so you wouldn't lose any velocity. But obviously, when there's no gravity converting the square into a circle, okay, and you have to do it yourself, that is, the ball bearing has to provide the energy for the change in direction, then yes, it's going to go slow because it has to provide the energy for the change in direction. And this doesn't change even when the experiment is scaled up. Well, I don't know why you would think scaling would change any. I mean, that's like saying if I have one pile of cat poo and I pile on more cat poo, that somehow it's not going to be cat poo. No, cat poo is cat poo. Yeah, in a static circle, 3.4 applies. Yet in a static circle, 3.4 applies. Again, it always applies. The point is whether there's whether velocity is changed depending on a circumstance. And the circumstance is, yes, when you are applying a force, like if I swing something, I'm not only propelling it, giving it velocity in a forward direction, but I'm also pulling on it, okay? So I'm actively applying force to bend its direction, okay? So it doesn't have to do it, I'm doing it. And in gravity, it's gravity does it. But when you just make a hoop, a solid hoop is just sitting there, that has no energy. There's no hands moving it. There's no anything to provide more energy. So the only source of energy is the ball rolling, and that's why it slows down. And the same is true of a runner going in around an oval. He slows down. Same is true for a car going around an oval. It slows down because it has to provide the turning energy. Shit. But for gravity, it doesn't work that way. All right. So I guess, I don't know whether I'll do the screen share thing. I don't know what to do exactly to go to the fucking stupid fucking... No, it's weird. It's my last comment doesn't show up, and it should, right? So I just refreshed this page. So I guess I'll screen share it. And yeah, this just ain't right. Where the fuck's the page? Oh, this is it, I guess. Yeah. All right, it's going to screw up the sync here, but that's okay. Let's see if I can make it bigger somehow. View. Maybe I can do that with the view thing. Maybe I'll zoom in. Let's see what it does. That isn't much of a zoom. Kind of pussy shit. Think you can do a little better than that. Still kind of pussy, but it'll do. All right. So this is the comment thread. I won't read it all, but the formula they're using, I didn't really think about it. I didn't, when they first did it, I was just like, okay, it's a formula. I took it for granted. So the formula is angular velocity equals pi times diameter times linear velocity. Well, he actually wrote it wrong twice. It's 2 pi times diameter times linear velocity. So it doesn't have the right formula even written here. And what that really does is that's just the formula for converting a velocity, any velocity. That means a linear velocity can be inside a loop, or a linear velocity can be straight. Linear just means it's in meters. And angular velocity just means it's in radians. And so what a radian is this kind of, I suppose, like I said, this has some use in doing some sort of geometric math. But what a radian is you're basically just taking the radius length and duplicating it in circumference and counting how many of those there are in a circle. And what it comes out to, okay, the way it works out is the whole pi thing. So for 180 degrees, you end up with the 3.14 radians. So let's see, the camera's not on. So I guess I have to screen share something else so I can do the picture thing. All right, well, we'll get back to the screen share, I suppose. So the idea is the radius would be this line here. And what a radian is just counting how many linear radiuses you have in the circle. So that's the conversion. So you end up with 6.28 or whatever it comes out to. And that's why there's 2 pi in the formulas, because it's counting the fact that it's 6.28 radians in one circle. So one revolution equals 6.24 radians. Get it? So that's the relationship between circumference and the radius, and which is really the diameter. That's why the 2 is in there. You can either say it's 2 radians, 2 radiuses are the diameter, it's diameter times pi equals the circumference, or you can do the radius thing, and you can multiply it any way you want, but it comes out to the same answer. So all this formula is doing is taking a velocity, like you would calculate the velocity for the circle here and say, count 1 revolution and then do your meters per 1 revolution, or by a time, how long did it take for 1 revolution, and that would be your meters per second calculation. And if you had a straight line with a little ball rolling on it, put a little arrow just for fun, that would be another velocity that you could punch into the formula, and it'll give you an angular velocity if it was a circle. It's not a circle, so it's useless. So the idea is you would actually have to calculate this velocity and put it into the formula. The formula won't give you this velocity. So they're talking like the formula gives you this answer. It doesn't give you how fast something moves in a circle. It just tells you how many, how you convert meters into radians. So it's just a formula for converting. It doesn't do any figuring of any kind. It just converts units to units. So it converts meters per second into radians per second. It has no function in telling you anything about anything significant or meaningful. Whatever velocity you put in, you'll just get the radian equivalent. So absolutely meaningless. And the reason why it works when you do it with something gravitational is because gravity doesn't slow something's velocity down. So if something comes into a loop controlled by gravity, all right, so there's gravity pushing on something, what you have to recognize is that all the force needed to push the thing into the orbit, right? It keeps wanting to go straight, it keeps getting pushed. It wants to go straight, keeps getting pushed. All of that energy is coming from gravity. The thing moving doesn't have to supply any energy at all to do the curve, where the runner doesn't have gravity pushing it into the track. It doesn't have some force holding it up. It doesn't have a string tied to the center of the track that it can lean on. It has no source, of force. It has to provide the change in direction by friction, by banging into the surface of the loop and constantly reflecting. So anyway, so in this comment section, I point out all that stuff, this reflection argument. I've made the 2 videos. I point out the reflection argument. And this guy just keeps pretending he don't understand nothing. You know, and it's just really irritating. And he's snarky in the sense that he says this crap like, oh, so you agree, where, you know, obviously I'm not agreeing. So I'll just read his last comment. Again, I'm happy that you agree. See, again, I don't agree. You cannot compare curved velocity with a straight velocity. Now, my reply that isn't showing, which is really weird. I mean, it shows when I'm on the Amendum account. It doesn't show on the DraftScience account. Now, you tell me why that is. I mean, I don't like anything about YouTube, but I really hate this game playing about hiding comments. Because I've made a number of comments under the Amendum screen name, and they're showing, and somehow the last one doesn't show. But it does show if I'm signed in as Amendum. So that's a little bit creepy. All right, well, anyway, I point out that the formula is a conversion formula. Okay, so I said that in the previous one. The formula is just a unit conversion formula that it just converts meters per second into radians per second. You aren't supposed to use it to convert straight velocity into a measurement of curved velocity. So I made that pretty clear. In gravity, it doesn't matter because the realized velocity would be the same. So I'm just basically pointing out that in gravity, you won't have this problem because the angular velocity that you take from a linear a going in velocity is going to be the same velocity it's going to have in the orbit. The orbital velocity be the same as the velocity prior to the orbit. And then I point out the 86 was a bad guess on my part percentage, and it should be 0.785 is like the white space of the square. You multiply times that, and you'll get the, in cases where there's no extra force creating the curve, you need to multiply measured straight velocity, that is how fast it rolls down the road, by 0.785, and that'll tell you how fast it'll end up going if you put it in a loop. Because the loop velocity is going to basically be consistent with converting the square into a circle. All right. So, I mean, I think I made like I said, I made the argument. They just keep pretending they don't understand what I'm talking about. So again, you cannot compare curved velocity with straight velocity. And in my comment, I basically said, that's really not the point, because you actually can compare the two. You just can't compare them with a unit conversion formula. All right, using a formula to convert cups into teaspoons will not answer the question, how fast does a cat climb up a tree? It just won't do it. All right, then he says, however, cannot place your remark. The formula is just a unit conversion formula that you are not supposed to use. And then you cut that off, okay, since it is used all over physics. Well, again, I'm saying you're not supposed to use it for a specific purpose, right? You're not supposed to use it to convert straight velocity into a measurement, in quotes, of would-be curved velocity. You're not supposed to use it to predict how fast a cat will run up a tree. You either put in the speed it runs up the tree into the conversion formula, or you put the speed it runs in the grass into the formula, but you can't predict one by putting in the other one's value. It's not going to tell you any answer. It's just going to convert meters per second into radians per second, for fuck's sake. So this whole argument is just made out of fucking nothing. This is what I mean by the danger of these Miles Mathis types. This whole fucking controversy is made of absolutely nothing, because they're not even using a formula relevant to what they're attempting to do. And it's partly the fault of physics by calling something angular velocity, when all they mean is the same velocity just converted into radians. It's just a change in the units. Teaspoons instead of cups. You just shouldn't have a specially different word for something's velocity just because you measured it with a different unit. Well, anyway. It is the basis for the calculation of angular momentum. Well, again, yes, the calculation of radians. So if you want to know how many radians something is, well, then you use this stupid piece of math, but it's absolutely irrelevant to actually figuring anything out. And angular momentum is used everywhere. Well, again, that's not the point. It's used everywhere in calculations because it's been converted into arc seconds and degrees by converting it into radians. Radians converts into degrees and arc seconds. Meters per second doesn't. Quantum mechanics is but one example. That doesn't even mean anything. What the fuck is quantum mechanics anyway? You can't even, people just keep throwing that word out like there's quantum mechanics, like there's an actual thing, a little package called a box. This is quantum mechanics, and this is what we pull out of the quantum mechanics box. What a pile of shit. There's no such thing as quantum mechanics. Ugh. But this is just so bad. So anyway, there's just so much shit. I mean, like I said, all these people are deceived by this. I don't know your claim MM is right, but surely can't appreciate efforts and execution of anyone who cared enough to do it. Again, not sure it actually proves that pi equals 4. He's not sure. I suggest anyone who finds Miles Mathis' work compelling, then they should also read Milton Morrison's book, Physics is Constipated Intellectually. Well, that sounds like a great book. That is, I came across this book when I was in physics undergrad and struggled. Oh, well, whatever. Steve, great experiment. I would like to make a suggestion that I think would give more of a punch. See? Punch. You see, they're punching with this idea that because a ball bearing moves at a different speed when it's free to move straight than when it's confined by a loop, that we have discovered how physics is wrong. Pi is not correct. No, you haven't done any of that. You need to make it crystal clear the length of the circular pipe when laid out flat is the same length of pi marking on the tube. He did make that clear, so it's just so stupid, these people. Great experiment. I look forward to many replications. This is something that can be easily done in primary school, right? And deceive little kids into this is like the bent fabric experiment. Oh yeah, this is what gravity does, when it has nothing to do with gravity actually, because what'll happen with gravity is you push the thing over the edge and it'll crash right into the frickin' middle or fly right the fuck back out of the fabric. That's what happens in the real world. You know, your fake experiment world is not the real world. It's strange to think that the outcomes would be the same when another variable is added. What other variable? If it was not pi, pi is such a primitive thing that is like, why is the sky blue? Kind of answer. Well, that makes sense. No one worries about it once the first seemingly good and replicable answer arrives. Yet physics has so many problems today. Yeah, well, one of the problems isn't that pi's broken, retard. Oh, God, these people are so stupid. Subscribe straight from Miles Paper. Thanks for the interesting experiment. And again, Miles Paper, he believes there's such a thing as a gravitational assist for runners around a track, that when they lean, they're gaining a gravitational assist. Yeah, right. Like they don't have to go back straight again. Oh, fuck. All right. Bravo. Backyard Scientology for the win. That's what it pretty much is. Scientology. Can't wait to see the very slight improvements. The more propaganda and lies about what this formula means. I mean, the formula is just obvious. The formula could never come up with a reduced speed. Okay, you're multiplying 2 times pi times the radius times the linear velocity. Now, how could you ever come up with a slower number with that formula? It sounds like you're going to come up with a bigger number. And of course you're going to come up with a bigger number because radians are smaller than meters. Duh. Oh. But you get my point, don't you? I mean, it doesn't convert the velocity into what you would expect circular velocity to be. See, now we have to say circular velocity because angular velocity only means radians. So you have to say circular velocity. The circular velocity is dependent on the force causing the thing to move in a circle. If the force comes from the outside, like magnetism or gravity or someone whipping a string, then the speed remains the same as the linear speed. But the circular speed will be reduced in all those circumstances where the only thing with active force in the experiment is the thing going to be forced into a loop. Okay, I've said it enough times. Doesn't matter. But anyway, this is just propaganda now. This is all this comes down to. Let's lie to people. Let's fool them. Let's deceive them, and think we're doing the right thing. And it's all those evil conventionalists with all their conventional lies. See, this is what just ruins it all, right? Because I'm in the same camp. I mean, I'm basically saying yes, much of physics is bullshit. But I'm doing it on legitimate grounds, not this illegitimate shit. I'm not playing a parlor game. I'm not playing numbers games and using deceptive conversion formulas, unit conversion formulas, as if they have something to do with calculating some kind of changed circumstance. It doesn't calculate what will happen. It calculates whatever you put in. Okay, you put in 10 tablespoons, it'll tell you how many cups that is. Fuck. All right. So enough of that. Very annoying. So if somebody's available and they want to get in the room, then leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll probably just cut this short because I don't know if I have much else I want to talk about, because everything just kind of is very discouraging and irritating. I find everybody on this planet incredibly annoying. So let's see what this asshole says. Gee, you and Miles are nuts. No quantum mechanics. Well, again, how would you describe quantum mechanics? Do you think the Huygens principle is quantum mechanics? Okay, I mean the principle where you really think that every time a wave forms somewhere, one infinite number of little waves form the next wave? Do you think that actually happens anywhere in the real universe? Do you really? What is quantum mechanics to you? Have you actually looked at a double slit experiment output and seen that there's two patterns in it that aren't explained by any math? The physicists don't explain that at all. So what does quantum mechanics mean, asshole? Ugh, I'm so sick of these shitheads. LOL, university students have been using it. Using it to do what? Yeah, right. Make up stuff. Okay. There's no such thing as quantum mechanics. College students in physics grad school use the science you deny, along with engineers. Well, again, show me, prove it to me. Show me them using Huygens somewhere. Okay, show me them making a fucking goddamn chocolate chip cookie using Huygens. Show me them making anything with that pile of shit lie. Show it to me, asshole. You're denying actually used science. No, I'm denying their interpretation, jackass. I'm denying that photons split in half, have radar, and can also do fucking probability calculations. Yes, I'm denying that. I'm denying they can read minds also. Your quantum mechanics is a lie. Why don't you show me a multiverse? Why don't you show me a chocolate chip cookie from the fucking multiverse, you fucking cunt? Your fucking quantum mechanics is a pile of shit. Okay, now if you want to go back to quantum electrodynamics, that is Feynman's physics, which is photons travel in a straight line from point A to B until they hit a fucking electron. Do you believe that, asshole? Do you believe in electrons, asshole? Do you understand what an electron is, fuckhead? Do you understand an electron's a lot more complicated than a fucking photon, fuckface? Sure you do have a fucky face. What do you think is powering nanotechnology? Well, that's even dumber. Well, I guess it's small stuff like electrons, retard. I'm a student in physics who doesn't use the science he denies. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you might be using it, right? I mean, you just don't know it, right? Because it's quantum magic. So actually, you're, in the multiverse, you've dunked many, pieces of banana cream pie in your chocolate milk. Nanotechnology is different from quantum mechanics. Well, nanotechnology is going to depend on understanding the relationship between electrons and photons. Now, that's quantum electrodynamics. That is a perfectly acceptable science as long as you don't convert it into silly, vapor space. of the nonsense that has not been proven, the Heisenberg bullshit that photons don't have a position. Never been proven. You're just using conjecture. No, you're just using conjecture. It is the science of electrons and protons. No, I'm sorry. The science of electrons and protons is that they are the thing that fuck photons up, jackass, not the other way around. I mean, fuck you. You know, if a photon gets diffracted, it gets diffracted by electrons. If a photon gets reflected, it gets reflected by electrons. Photons don't do anything. Shit for brain. And quantum mechanics is now dependent on photons having power. Having power. Nowhere in their analysis of the double slit experiment do they even admit what Newton knew, which is a single aperture creates diffraction. Okay, and it doesn't create diffraction because photons are magical. It creates diffraction because fucking photons are hitting electrons. Okay. Yeah, he's very useless is what he is. Well, you're just trolly, and you're just a gay. See, they always have to resort to something. Why don't you just call him a nigger next, asshole? Yeah, what a fucking tard. Yeah, well, you can just fuck off. Yeah, we're done with you. Just pathetic. I mean, this whole thing of putting words in my mouth, like I deny the existence of electrons and photons because I deny that there's such a thing as a Huygens principle, and that I deny that Heisenberg, and I deny that they have any evidence that they've ever bent a photon with gravity, and that I deny they have any evidence of dark matter, and I deny they have any evidence of a super black hole, supermassive black hole. No, I don't have to read Chris Lonergan's CTMU, whatever the fuck that is. Have you read it? What is that? What's a CTMU? Cunt thumping master underwear. Well, it's access, it's availability. Moons orbit planets because they have a size that allows that to happen. Obviously, if a planet orbited a planet, it gets kind of confusing, right? Because you're going to have to be pretty far away without sucking each other's guts out, smashing into each other. So obviously, in circular orbits where one object is, relatively speaking, they have the same. They have a parallel velocity, so they have a compatible velocity. Like the moon moves pretty slow. It doesn't, it goes pretty fucking slow. It's the planet orbiting that makes it look like the moon is, the planet spinning that makes the moon look like it's going fast, but the moon's going pretty fucking slow. And so the relationship is maintainable. But obviously a lot of those relationships in the early universe didn't last. The things crashed into shit all the time. So I guess I really don't know the nature of your question. Obviously it's complicated to get into an orbit. Orbits are complicated, and you only get into them in kind of indirect ways. Like if I was ever to push anything from the outside universe into our solar system, no matter what I do, I really can't miss the sun or fly out of the solar system. There's no way to throw something from the outside into the solar system and have it stay unless it hits something. Something has to change its momentum because of the rules of conservation. So it either crashes into the sun or it flies out unless it does something where it hits something else to eat up some of its velocity. So if some of its velocity isn't taken away from it, it can't ever find an orbit. Those are certain facts that mean that orbits are rare and they're a consequence of more than one interaction. You can't just fly into a solar system and find an orbit. You can't do it that way. Why does one extraplanetary body orbit backwards to the rest in our own solar system. Well, again, that's probably because of a velocity issue. Something broke off of something else because something exploded or something had a cataclysmic reaction. So let's say a comet hit something nearby. The comet was absorbed part of its energy, and then the energy it reflected off, and a big piece of that flew in the direction of something. Then for a period of time, it could maintain a counter orbit. But the odds are that it's going to get eaten up over time, because when everything's going in one direction, it means all the garbage is going in that direction too, all the junk. So something going against the grain is usually going to get eaten up. So if there's any other partners, like if it's the fifth moon around something and it's going the wrong way, it's not likely that it's going to survive going the wrong way. Because every time it passes the other bodies, there's a huge torque applied to it. And eventually it just gets ripped to pieces. I mean, that's sort of a thing you can see with the stupid bent fabric thing. So if you use the stupid bent fabric thing, even as a bad example, and you throw a whole bunch of marbles onto the bent fabric, you'll find that they'll all end up in the end. The ones that survive will all be going the same way, because it's basically, one gang will win. The decision will be made which way is more things going, and whichever way has one more cookie, so to speak, when the fight is all over, that side is going to win. What a trolling name. Yes, it is a trolling name. That is true. How come the rest of physics disagrees with you? Well, I haven't had an argument with them yet, so they can't really disagree with me, can they? If they haven't heard my theory or heard my argument, you can't really say they disagree, right? I mean, that's kind of silly, isn't it? They disagree with something they haven't heard about. Yeah, that's kind of a marginal thing to say. I mean, the rest of physics has made colossal mistakes that I think are obvious. I mean, the most obvious one is the whole push rather than pull force. I mean, they're committed to a pull idea of force. And just imagine it to yourself. There's no way you can come up with a simple thing doing pull. There's no simple way to do pull. There's lots of simple ways to do push. I mean, push is the goddamn easiest thing to do. You can't miss pushing. Pushing you're going to do just by fucking accident. There's no way to accidentally push. Push requires a complex structure, and so it's just totally, it's almost irrational to think that the simplest shit in the universe would have built into it a mechanism of, I can reach my hand out, pull the handle towards me. Yes, no, not likely. Not likely part of the fundament of the universe. I have no idea what the cycle of my whatever the point will be where I can get myself. Like I said, I've offered $5,000 bounties. Maybe I'll have to do that in some more aggressive way. Maybe a Patreon page. As much as I hate that shit, I'll just make a page just to make the point that, look, maybe if we raise a little bit more money, we can get one of these cunts to defend conventional physics that's full of shit. And I'll just beat the crap out of them, and then I'll be off to the races. I have no doubt that I can embarrass any physicist who wishes to attempt to defend things like Huygens, things like gravitational lensing, things like pull rather than push force, things like, why would you call light an electromagnetic function when really the speed of light is the speed of force? All the forces move at the speed of light. It should be called the speed of force, because magnetism does it, gravity does it. So yeah, kind of going backwards to sit there and pull light into some other area all by itself when light is force. And then once you understand that light's a force, then you just understand that the other forces are just the same thing as light. They're just fucking invisible. No surprise. X-rays are invisible. Lots of things are invisible to you. So why can't you imagine that, yes, magnetism is like X-rays. It's an invisible force coming off of the magnets. What's so complicated? Gravity pushes us into the earth. It's an invisible force pushing us like photons pushing. Not complicated. I can get pussy anytime I want, to tell you the truth. So, whether I want a lot of it or not, I don't know. Is that what you're after in life? I'm kind of quality over quantity myself. So I've met lots of pussies I wouldn't want to fuck. So I don't know. It's just such an irrelevant question. Um, yeah, it's really wouldn't. What I'd like is just to be able to. Yes, I'd like the idea that I could actually spend the rest of my stupid life thinking, instead of working. Having to deal with a dysfunctional and poverty blighted life. It would be nice to be able to get out of that and maximize whatever time I have left on this shithole. Well, I have friends who are girls, but of that group, I can only say I've only fucked one of them. But whatever. I don't. I'm not the marrying kind, if you get my drift. I'm not the. I don't do the domestic thing, living with somebody and all that kind of crap. Not for me. Sorry. So yeah, I don't really have much to offer. Besides, fucking. I really don't have any use for women. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but I just don't need somebody to cry with or whatever you're supposed to do with women other than fuck them. I just don't have any imagination in that department. So I really don't like company. I don't like male company. I don't like female company. I don't even like the company of the cat, to tell you the truth. I really love being alone. People like gravity, right? People suck my energy. They steal it. They orbit me and they whip around me and steal hunks of my energy. They don't give me anything. Some say we've observed gravitational lensing. Well, again, I'm just saying I've looked at all the images. They're crap. You now said that people have to make up dark matter, but isn't that because they've observed too much lensing? Well, again, I'm just saying one is feeding the other. The lensing is in preposterously insane places, right? So they have to explain why there's lensing way, way out in the middle of nowhere on a galaxy, and the lens is 379 light years across. They sort of have to explain how a lens that gigantic could possibly exist. And so they come up with this dark matter crap to make the lens. It's nonsense. Lensing is it's a very particular thing, but people, because they've used the word lensing, people have the wrong impression. Because all you need to do lensing is an element of gravity in the right location. So it's like not, but you can't really expect it to be in the locations they've placed it in. But I mean, technically, like with the sun's lensing, the Hubble telescope should be able to see it every single day. Every day, the Hubble telescope should be able to see, make it red. They should see stars that are behind the sun, and they should see them in front of the sun. So they should see things hidden behind the edge of the sun, and they should be able to see them in a false location. Every day, the Hubble telescope can do that, because every day the Hubble telescope, when it looks out into space, it sees black and the sun. The sun's a little tiny light spot. It's a flashlight, and everything else is black. Where on Earth, the atmosphere completely fucks your ability to see the stars. They're gone, and the clouds get in the way and everything else too, which makes it a pain in the ass. But I'm just saying the Hubble telescope has been up there for 15 years now. There's no image of a Hubble telescope image of the sun lensing. That should tell you something. Okay, that lensing, that's the lensing Einstein said would exist. That's the lensing Ettenberg or whatever in 1820 whatever said he found, but it's never been, the experiment's never been duplicated successfully. So I'm just saying the evidence is kind of clear. The sun doesn't lens. Our sun is not lensing anything. Now, all the deep space images are fucking disgustingly bizarre, right? Because, I mean, I've made this point before, but I mean, you know, maybe you have to have my understanding of gravity for people to get this. But, all right, in every lensing picture, they'll show you a galaxy, right, over here. So, okay, they'll show you a galaxy this way. And they'll say, look, there's a blotch here and there's a blotch over here. So the lens would have to be huge, and there'd have to be intensely strong gravity on the outside of the wheel. Now, obviously, we know there's not intensely strong gravity there. If there is, this isn't as strong as like our sun, but clearly there's more gravity inside the wheel than outside the wheel. So it doesn't make any sense that the lensing would be way the fuck out here. Even worse, if you really think about what a galaxy is, it's flat. So if to see lensing with the galaxy facing you this way, okay, that means the light traveled this way across the galaxy. See how narrow that is? See, it's a tiny bit of the galaxy, right? That's just a tiny, tiny amount of time in the gravity. Where if the light travels this way, that is on its edge, right, coming towards you from the very edge of the galaxy, it travels all of this distance, this huge giant 500 light year across distance. The light has to travel that entire distance in the fucking gravity. So if there was going to be lensing, it would be on galaxies on their edge. We would see lensing on these points or in here, but there's absolutely no reason to see it on the outside of one of these giant galaxies. So it's just bad science, in my opinion, really bad, to sit there and contrive excuses to put these lenses in these stupid locations. And the images, like I said, if you just look at them, they're just crap. They're blobs. They're blurry blobs of stuff. And you're saying that could be almost anything. That could be a lens artifact. That could be something. They're half-hour exposures too. You got to remember, these pictures from way deep in space. They might be 2-hour exposures, might be 10-hour exposures, really long exposures. Almost anything moving, okay, within, let's say, I don't know, a light year of us, could create a shadow, what do you call that? There's a word for artifacts that are lit. But almost anything could do it. So I'm just saying the proof is thin at best. At best, it's thin. I say it's pretty much non-existent. So, what's up, man? Whatever that means. What's your take on black holes? Aren't they pull? Well, again, you explain how pull is manifested, please. You give me a physical explanation of how pull is manifested in 3 dimensions. In 3 dimensions, it means you have a circular body that constantly sucks spent space in. So it's pulling the space in constantly from all 3 dimensions. Pulling it in with what? Where does it go? Where's all this space go that it keeps pulling? I mean, I'm just saying, it's not physics. It's not a physical explanation. It's a fucking goddamn fairy tale of an explanation. It's the 3 bears. The 3 bears are doing it. Fucking Tinkerbell is causing gravity. The angels are pushing the planets into the sun. I mean, you might as well just make up anything if you're going to make up something stupid like bent space. It's just a useless placeholder for the truth. It's all it is. It's a pile of mush. It provides no useful information. It's not physical. Well, I don't even know what a scientist is. Like I said, I mean, I think quite obviously I've spent my life, okay, doing electronics experiments. I built robots 30 years ago. Um, you know, I burned down a couple of houses, but we won't talk about that. I've done all kinds of things. So yeah, I'd say I was a scientist in the Benjamin Franklin sense, where yes, I've been electrocuted 2,376 times. I think that should qualify you. Do you think inverted gravity exists in your theory? Well, I don't even know what that would be. So no, inverted gravity. Oh, ungravity. Yeah, counter gravity. Like counter space. It's like a Ken talk now. There's stuff in space, and then there's stuff in counter space. It's so obvious. A blind man could see it, but no one who's got a brain can. Well, negating gravity is a little tricky just because gravity is created by protons and neutrons. Okay, so everything moves because the protons and the neutrons and the electrons move. They're accelerated by gravity. So I'm just saying it's pretty hard to think of any way or any mechanism you could use to prevent them from being affected by that field energy. And it's pretty hard to imagine how you create a case that can block that field energy. So I'm just saying it doesn't seem very likely that you're ever going to come up with some mechanism, an anti-gravity box. I mean, all you can do is change the force. You can convert the force, you can convert gravity into magnetism, you can convert it into something else and then make it do something else, but you can't negate its existence. It's not very good questions. Can you reverse the particles influencing you? Again, I'm just saying that the structure is really old, and that should give you a clue that it's pretty durable. So you would just think that over time, if there was some manifestation of that, it would be in some other movie than Avatar. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying there's just no evidence that you can negate these fundamental forces. And I guess I'm arguing that when you really think of the tons themselves, they can never be stopped. All you can do is change polarization and collect polarization, and that's what we call matter. Matter is just a collection of polarization. The quanta are constantly banging into each other and exchanging this polarization, and this polarization stays in the container. And that's, you can't really, it doesn't seem like there's any easy way to get around that. I don't think electrons are easily created or destroyed. It's his job now. Is this your job? It's his job now, but he's not getting paid for it right now. Yes, in the future, perhaps. But yes, right now it's just a personal mission successfully accomplished. 4 years ago, I went on a search for the truth, and I found it because I knew the silly people talking about their Copenhagen crap and their multiverse crap had to be full of crap. There had to be a better explanations than photons or mind readers. Shape-shifting, mind-reading, Heisenbergy, sneaky. The dumbest thing in the universe is somehow the trickiest. No, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I went looking for a better answer and I found it. So if there's anybody who wishes to get into the room, you can. You just have to ask, and I'll send you a link. But obviously, people with names like DraftScience aren't gonna get the link. I'm sorry. Unaccountable trolls will actually have to jump through a hoop or two. So, um, yeah, but I do have to get myself on the radar here. I do have to get on. I have to somehow provoke. I mean, I can't. I've been rather aggressive. I mean, I've obviously proved that the Ken Wheeler guy is a pussy, and he won't defend his silly electric universe. You know, whatever his whatever the guy's name is, Nikola Tesla nonsense. Um, and Miles Mathis is likewise a pussy. I had some hope for this guy with the critical, whatever they call them. What does he call that channel with the ball bearing experiment? He seemed like he was interested in science, but I think he's just interested in silly science. Extraordinary experiments. He's only done the same experiment 3 times so far, so it's not too extraordinary yet. Um, but there's hope. But yeah, it's just really difficult to get anybody to drag anybody into this conversation. And yes, in the beginning, I was a lot more polite. I sent out emails, and nobody with any kind of standing has any interest. And then like I said, I have offered payment to some people through emails also, and they wouldn't even respond with an answer to my direct question, like how much would I have to pay you to publicly defend, physics. And they wouldn't come back with an answer because I don't think they can do it. I mean, I think they're afraid that they might come off, looking like a religious kook. So yeah, in a way, it's a tough challenge because people don't want to put their reputation at risk, um, and unless you up the ante. Um, and I would love people to make response videos if they have some sort of real answer to anything I'm saying. I mean, I have followed people, posted links to crap, and I've debunked the crap. But I mean, I don't want to spend the rest of my life debunking Wikipedia pages. But yeah, I can do that. But you get nothing for it. That's the part that's really irritating. Is you win the argument, and then they pretend like they weren't wrong. That they weren't completely wrong. Like you didn't just do exactly what you said you would do, which is prove it's crap. It was like that with one of the guys with the lensing thing. He posted me all these stupid proofs that lensing exists, and they were all experiments that didn't pass the test of their own margin of error. I mean, they did the experiment, but they conceded they didn't have results that exceeded the margin of error. Like, well, what does this prove? How can you use an experiment that doesn't exceed the margin of error and use that as proof of something? It's fucking amazing. I really hate these Modi cons. They're gotten so stupid looking. I don't even understand the point of them. Ugh, I hate it. Yeah, go on the news. Yeah, I'll just do that. My special news pass. I'll just pop on the news. It's just great advice in here, isn't there? Well, we don't need this monkey guy with his fucking drivel dravel. See you later, monkey turd thingy. Putz retard. Useless sack of goo. Cunt slime. I guess it's just, there's so much idiocracy out there too that there's just no point in talking about anything. So everybody's a fucking idiot. Fucking idiots can't listen. They can't think. Logic is a foreign, alien concept. Just sucks. Quite discouraging. So I have worked on my little ball bearing thing, but yeah, it's not exactly what it needs to be. No, it's on the other computer. Don't think I'll bother switching screens for that. I can't really screen share on the other computer either. All right. Do you think we will ever reach civilization type 1? Well, whatever. I don't. I hate that whole type of civilization thing because that was part of that silly Drake equation, which was a pile of crap anyway. So I mean, this whole thing, like they somehow know what civilizations do, is kind of crap anyway. Um, I mean, the presumption that we would even know what to do with world peace, or that we'd even know how to live a life in a world without competition, or envy, or superiority dancing, um, like we could even function in that world, is, I think, I mean, I think if you're going to have a type 1 civilization, it's going to mean it's neutered. Okay, so there's not going to be a testicle in sight. When I see lenses presenting pictures, are you saying that they are saying the lens is entirely encapsulating the galaxy that is distorted, and that what you hate? No, I'm saying there has to be intense gravity for there to be a lens. Do you understand that much? That to bend light goes very, very fast. You see, and the only way Einstein thought it was possible for the sun to lens was because he applied his silly relativity rules, which meant by relativity, it meant the photon was in the gravity twice as long because it did its little relativity crap. So he made it stay in the gravity twice as long so it was able to be bent. But if it didn't stay there twice as long, it couldn't get bent. So that was the big change Einstein created, which is crap anyway, because you could have the photon sit there for 700 years and still not going to get bent. But anyway, so the point is that you have to understand that there has to be strong, strong gravity. So when Einstein theorized about lensing, he speculated that it would only exist on the surface of very massive objects. So only on the surface of a very massive object where you have high gravitational fields, would you be able to bend light, because light's moving very, very fast. Okay, it's a whole momentum problem. You can't bend something going very, very fast. Um, and you should be able to figure this out. And so obviously in the outskirts of a gravity, if you have in the outskirts of a galaxy, if you have tremendous gravity, you can sort of understand that why wouldn't all the stars be moving towards it? It's very hard to make very strong gravity and have it not affect the shit around it. So that's the problem with their theory. The lensing is in places where there's no indication that there's any strong gravity there. There's very weak gravity. The gravity where the Earth is, right? On the surface of the sun, the gravity is 70 meters per second per second. Where the Earth is, right, the sun's gravity is already reduced. It's already so slight that it's 0.0014 or something like that meters per second per second. The gravity from the sun has gotten completely eviscerated by the inverse square rule, even where the Earth is. So you can understand gravity weakens really, really fast. And so this idea that you could have a lens, this long, like, like a light year long lens in the galaxy means that there has to be a huge thing with a huge amount of gravity for the light to be bent there. It's just not possible. All right, lenses entirely escaping the galaxy that is distorted. When I see lenses entirely encapsulating the galaxy that is distorted, and that's what you hate. Again, this isn't about what I hate. It's about what I don't think can be rationally defended. I mean, can't you understand that? Should I find something that is wrong to be right for no reason? I should just say it's right when I think it's wrong. It's a wrong description of reality. I should just pretend to satisfy you or something, because you'll call me a hater if I don't agree. If I don't agree, I hate your lie. What is that crap? I think it's illogical. I don't think it can be defended rationally. That's why I want to argue with a physicist. I want to show him up. I want to point him out to him that, look, there's no rational way you can explain this. Fermented pussy farts. I don't know what good that is. I think we're done with him. Good night. Thank you very much. Let's see. Not to mean the technological advancement of harnessing the power of the star. Not, I mean, the technical advancement of harnessing the. Look, we can technically harness the power of the magic marker. Okay, this magic marker has enough energy in the form of matter in it, right? I mean, an apple is to the earth what an atom, okay, is to an apple. There's a lot of atoms in this fucker, and tremendous amount of energy in the form of these quanta that can be released. So right here, there's enough energy to power New York City for 100 years, right here. It's just being able to get to it without blowing your face off. That's the tricky part. Anyway, no controlling a star. What do you even mean by controlling a star? Calm down. I didn't mean anything by that. I don't have to ever calm down. Calming down is what's got the world looking like a piece of shit. Then why did you type it? Yes, exactly. To waste time. But it's just purpose in life. I'm going out into the internet to waste time because that's such a cool thing to do, is waste people's time. Ugh, fucktards. We ought to use them just to do fucking physics experiments. Let's see how fast they'll go if we shoot them towards the sun. Yes, brilliant counter argument. Yeah, we're wrong because you can't be rational. Oh, I see. I mean, tell you the truth, Sid's pretty patient. He's, answers anybody's questions if they're at all rational. Ren, what do you look like, DraftScience guy? Again, so it's just amazing trolls pointing out how somebody looks washed up or old or dead or something when they don't even have the balls to display any kind of piece of their identity for me to ridicule. I can only surmise that you have a very tiny penis, quite obviously, because you have to hide behind fake identities. You see other people with big penis like DraftScience, and you have to steal their name to try to pretend you have a penis because they have the penis. Well, I'm just saying, you want to ask things, you got to ask things in some kind of civil kind of manner. I'm just saying, I don't know. I shouldn't have to explain that to somebody. Well, I'm just saying that it's you're sort of identifying yourself as somebody with some sort of little petty key carring, penis problem. If you have to steal people's names, people steal other people's icons, and they fly under somebody else's image, and they don't have any apprehension about that. Like it's like Hannibal Lecter peeling off a guy's face and wearing it. It's like a little bit rude. I mean, if you're going to steal somebody else's identity and wear it, like somehow it's related to you, like somehow, I'm his biggest fan and therefore I should have his image. I mean, that's pretty bogus colors to be flying under. Let's see. It's not, it has no R. I don't know what that means. Yeah, well, whether it's daft or draft, the point is you're mocking it, and so like I said, whether you're using somebody's name for mockery or you're using it for your own aggrandizement or in your own effort to, uh, drape yourself in it, it's the same thing. Well, you say it's healthy. I'm just pointing out that many parodies are just by weak people. Or they don't have a real argument, so they have to make a parody. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, what's the difference between? It's like you could bitch about Donald Trump because he sniffles all the time, and he didn't fix that, right? I mean, the first debate he was all sniffly, and then he was still sniffly in this one. And you're just like, wow, you should fix that, bro. Um, and somebody could pick on him for being a sniffler, but is that like, wow, that's the big important subject? No, that's the lame, useless kind of thing to pick on. I mean, it's not that Donald wouldn't pick on it. I mean, Donald had Hillary dead and in the fucking grave, and he's the one that shows up in the last two debates all sniffly. So it's pretty lame. Well, I'm just saying, there's no point in getting into some conversation about this guy's intent. Like I said, your intent is quite obvious. I'm just saying that I am perceiving that it's out of some sort of weak psychology, not strong psychology. A strong man or person wouldn't play the game the way you're playing it. It's a weak man's game, not a strong man's game. He doesn't have a question. Don't worry about that. He's just trolling. Trolling for dollars. They ought to have a show on TV. And then they ought to just shoot them as they, you won $50. And then when they turn around and leave, they should just shoot them in the back of the head. Yeah, kill the trolls. Well, photonic computing is almost as silly as quantum computing. I mean, what you make bits out of. I mean, why don't you call it nano computing next? I mean, why don't we just keep playing word games? I mean, do you really think computers are going to get better because you made them smaller? They're going to get smarter? No. All you need them to do is get a little faster. But I mean, the basic concept is pretty much down. And, we're running out of shit to compute, aren't we? I mean, I just heard that the IBM computer that was really a good chess player, like it just graduated medical school or something. So, it's a doctor now. Oh, very un-American. See, I mean, that's just a kind of a trolly remark, right? I mean, oh, you're racist against deaf people. Yeah, you don't like the letter D. Except Li-Fi and light-based logic circuits have been tested. Well, again, when did I say that wasn't possible? I'm just saying, but it's not going to do you any good. I'm just saying, you think you're going to make a cheaper computer by filling it full of fiber optic cable instead of electrical cable? I don't think you got much chance. You think you're going to make a microchip out of fiber optic cable? I don't think so, fella. Now, if you want to run the bus on fiber optics, that's okay. But again, you want to make a $58,000 PC, go ahead, shithead. I don't think you're going to sell too many. I'm just saying they really don't need to continue much longer. I mean, you can keep pretending that a huge amount of computing power is necessary, but it really isn't. And nanobots aren't going to need to compute things. They're just going to need to be able to run mechanical programs. So you're not going to need to have a huge amount of storage and all this other stuff to run a nanobot. I'm not saying there's nothing. I'm not saying there's not some value to miniaturization. I'm just saying it's not going to provide you with a computer that's going to tell you, how to deal with having a small penis. It's not going to give you that answer, shithead. I mean, it might give you the answer. It might just say, well, you're fucked. You might as well kill yourself, shithead. So I think that's what a quantum computer will tell you. You're a fucking loser. Kill yourself. There. I'll predict that that's what the quantum computer will say. Warp drive. No, nothing will ever go faster than the speed of light because then it's not a something anymore. Then it's a beam of light. Anything moving the speed of light isn't a thing, it's light. So if you move matter the speed of light, it's not matter anymore, it's light. Anyway, yeah, wormholes, just 3 bear story. Completely made up. We might as well talk about gingerbread castles and fairies with 3 vaginas and blah, 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 blah. It's all just made up drivel. You're not going to see it in anybody's lifetime. Yeah, in our lifetime, you're not going to see that shit ever, 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 ever. It really is. They really have turned physics into a religion. Yep. Magical singularity, multiverses, wormholes. Oh yeah, we can fly anywhere we want. Such a pile of crap. Well, again, I don't want to break your little heart, but I'm just saying anti-gravity will have to be just positive magnetic. You have to fight gravity with another force. You won't be able to undo gravity. You'll just be able to overwhelm gravity with another force. But I'm just saying the odds of you coming up with another force efficiently that's more powerful than gravity, good luck. Well, it's like saying anti-light. Do you really think you could come up with something that's anti-light or anti-heat or anti-magnetism even? Did you really think there's such a thing as anti-magnetism? So how we'll get across the galaxy? Well, even if you could, if you're stupid enough to think traveling light speed is going to do you any good, you're really stupid. Because even if you had warp speed, you'd have to have enough energy. It wouldn't be about going fast. It would be about moving all of the crap out of your way because there's little tiny, even a half of an atom, even a couple of spare neutrons. If you plow into them at the speed of light, they're going to bust your face. Okay, so you're going to have a real problem. I mean, even light. Think about it for a second, right? If you're moving the speed of light and somebody shines a flashlight towards you, you are going to blue shift that light, okay, into X-rays and even more heavy radiation, and so you're going to be just beat to fucking hell by the regular energy out there. Just regular visible light becomes much more intense if you're traveling towards it at the speed of light. Anti implies a symmetry. Not all phenomena have symmetry. Well, I don't know if that's what it implies, but I'm just saying the anti implies that the forces aren't rudimentary, fixed, and they're not going away. If you're claiming that we can and will get across the galaxy, then it should be you explaining how. True enough, but we won't get that explanation. He'll just say, well, watch the Star Trek movie. They did it, so just build one of those thingies, with the thing spinning in it and shit. Exactly. Just buy yourself some Dyson crap. That'll do it. A Tesla coil glued onto a Dyson sphere. You're okay. That'll do it for sure. Maybe you can, chew some gum and make yourself, flux capacitor. No problem. Just saying, my physics does kind of rule out all this stuff just because it's clear that the forces are rudimentary, hard, fixed. You can't move a force with a force, and in a battle between force and matter, force will always win. So you're just fucked. I mean, the force will not be with you. Okay, the force is going to be against you all the way. Your whole trip, it's just going to be beating the fuck out of you. Yeah, well, Star Wars had a lot of silly shit in it, but that whole idea of the streamlined, pointy spaceship thing, you think they would have gotten a little bit past that and tried to make them a little bit, some better shapes than, I mean, the Falcon thing, at least it had a little bit of roundness to it. It looked a little bit bulky and fat. But, the fact that they made those giant spaceships all pointy was like, oh, come on, get real. you know, I don't think you'd be flying that through any atmospheres anywhere. Yeah, right. And the sounds all over the place. And the explosions exploding. Yes. Yeah, that was pretty. They should have. Some of that stuff. I know you've got to do the whole suspend disbelief thing and everything, but it might have been just nice if the movies would pay attention to the facts a little bit sometimes and just give you one of those once in a while, like in Star Wars. If they would have just given you that silence, just so you could realize that, yeah, this whole space thing is, you're not going to hear the bullet coming. No, you're not going to hear any. No, no. Hi, Gary. How are you processing in your theory about the size of the universe? Again, I'm not bothered with any theory of the size of the universe. So I don't know where you get the idea I give a shit about any of that crap and how it might relate to the conservation of energy. It doesn't have anything to do with the conservation of energy. Finite, infinite, doesn't matter. We know that every place we encounter, conservation rules exist. So it's just kind of obvious that if there's a bunch of left moving stuff over here, there's probably a bunch of right moving stuff over there. It's just the way it works. Okay. Yeah. There's only so many heads and there's only so many tails. And so if there's a bunch of them over here, then there's a bunch of them not over there. So yeah, no problem there. There's no question about the conservation. Seems quite obvious. Billions of years into the into the distant past, we can see that conservation won. Well, I don't know why infinite would imply non-conservation. It's like an infinite sausage maker. Why would you say the sausage maker stops making sausage? No, it just keeps grinding out sausage forever. Yeah, I'm just doing sausage forever. Yeah, I started like it seems like forever ago, And I'm just going to keep doing it forever because that's what I do. I crank out sausage. So, I mean, the universe could be doing that. It is a possibility. Um, I mean, finite has its own troubles. You know what I mean? When you want to just try to say, oh, well, the error only happened here. And then over there, everything's just fine. But there's so many questions, like where do the photons go that miss everything, and go out of the universe? There's no mathematics that makes them come back. They're off. They're see ya. Yeah, yeah. So you do that. Conservation is a problem in the sense that you're saying, well, where the hell is that shit going? But I mean, lots of things work. If you make the universe a bubble, then you can just say all the energy just bounces off the bubble and it comes back as gravity, so you don't see it, right? So a light photon goes out, hits the bubble, bounces back as gravity. You wouldn't know the difference. You wouldn't be able to see it happen. So the whole universe could just be a bubble. But I just don't, from my perspective, I'm really not worried about origins of the universe. It just, to me, that really isn't the interesting question. An interesting question, because first off, I don't think you're ever going to get the answer. So why look for answers you're not going to find? And yeah, second, it just really doesn't have anything to do with the mechanisms we do understand and what makes our lives relevant to understanding these mechanisms. So, in my opinion, just finding out that it is a particle universe, that it is deterministic, that we're all just robots, those facts will be much more important than whether the stupid machine is running in, whether there's 7-Elevens all over some country somewhere. Who cares? Once you know what you're in, and then you can't do anything about it, there's no point in worrying about how it got here. You're not flying back in time to stop anything. No, a bubble just implies a bubble. That's all it implies. That it expands and contracts like a bubble can possibly do, and that the universe may be doing that. It may just be a blob that just keeps compressing and expanding because it's got some kind of error code in it, and it just doesn't do what all the nothing does. It does a something instead of a nothing. Well, I don't. To say that a bubble can't exist is silly. If the argument is that there's an obvious transition, I could say there's a transition between the electron and the space outside of it. And then if a photon travels from the space outside of it, nothing happens. If the photon hits the electron, it goes into it, permeates its membrane, then it will be affected. So I'm just saying that the idea that there could be a layer of matter at the end of the universe, a membrane that reflects photons, reflects energy, why not? I mean, matter itself is an example of the force being in forms that are not the same. The universe isn't made out of all the same stuff, it's made out of collections of stuff. Matter is a collection of force, polarized force. An infinite conversion was impossible. I thought an infinite convergence was impossible. Well, again, I'm just saying I don't think it's out of question that you can imagine a circumstance that if something has a membrane, a bubble, that the bubble can contract and the bubble can expand. That's all I'm saying. I don't, I'm not arguing for any. Like I said, I find this subject incredibly uninteresting. I'm just saying, if you sat there and tried to come up with ways to explain what the existing phenomena and say what is it doing, well, there is some evidence of expansion. There is some evidence that the universe is made of stuff that explodes, like suns, that things get too heavy and they explode. So the banging part, there is evidence that banging happens, that the imbalance in the circumstances created and the thing explodes. So it's not unreasonable to believe that the entire universe is functioning much like many of the elements in the universe, and that it ages, it matures, then it explodes, okay, and it does it over again. And that we're just part of that pressure field of expansion, of expanded pressure. The gravity is the pressure, and over time the pressure will dissipate and the bubble will recontract. It's just, I think it's a reasonable bit of speculation. I'm not clinging to it. I don't believe that's necessarily the truth, but I'm just saying it's there. Well, I mean, string theory is rubber band theory. So it's on its face silly. It's not a physical explanation that's reasonable, is it? It's string theory is rubber band theory. They, they pretend that all the force is created by the expansion and contraction of a compressed rubber band. I just, so yeah, you think it makes any sense to say there's a rubber band attached to everything? I don't think so. So I think it's just silly. I think it's much more. It makes more sense to me to just say the field energy, the push exists. Once you give gravity its due, and you make gravity the main force, and then you just understand that gravity converts into magnetism, okay, and that gravity can be converted into photons, and that gravity can be converted into what's the other thing? There's light, magnetism, and gravity. Yeah, so it's all one ton moving the speed of light, and you can convert it by polarizing it and sending it at a frequency. But it's all the same shit, and that to me is a much more logical explanation than some silly notion that there's rubber bands pulling, contracting, and expanding. you know, rubber bands of what? How do they work, these little magic strings? Well, chaos theory is just a misnomer. I mean, chaos is a stupid word. There's no chaos. There's no random. It's there's equilibrium. You know what I mean? You can't really argue for chaos in a circumstance where there's equilibrium, and that equilibrium is broken in closed systems. So there's no. It's not. Like I said, chaos is just a wrong word to use. Stuff is filtered out of a mixed field. But there certainly can't be any theory associated with chaos. Don't you? I mean, it's an oxymoron to put the word theory next to the word chaos. By definition, chaos can't have a theory. There can't be any structure connected to something called a chaos. It's retarded. Yes, cause and effect is all there is. Stuff bangs into stuff. And when you do that stuff bang into stuff a lot, you can make funky stuff. And then funky stuff bangs into funky stuff. And then you can make even funkier stuff. And even funkier stuff bangs into even funkier stuff. And you can make even funkier stuff. and such. Anyway, I guess we've sort of exhausted any useful part of this conversation. So it probably is time to move on to another day, do some work, and be back when I have something of interest to contribute. Yeah. So, yeah. It's hard to know what I really should work on the promoting of the argument thing. And then I gotta, and I want to do a new summary video, but I also want to do my arrow programming thing. So. Well, we'll just have to see where my mood takes me. But I think that completes for the evening. I think we're done for tonight. And we'll try again tomorrow or the next day. See how things go. So, until the next time, just think push versus pull. Stupid. No brainer. Once you think about, okay, well, if I make gravity a push, what does that mean I have to create? Oh, I have to create some kind of tawny thing that pushes me down. Oh, that's not too hard to imagine. Yeah. A photon, but like not visible. Yeah, I can sort of imagine that. And you're off to the races. Anyway, that's it, I guess. No one's saying good night, but I won't take it personally. Yeah. Yeah. Usually somebody says good night. Good, Gary. Let's see. It's a bunch of mathematics that deals with complex systems whose behavior is highly sensitive to slight changes in condition. Again, there's no mathematics that can connect to something called chaos. So I'm just saying it's just stupid, in my opinion. It's oxymoronic. Look at that old fan comes to the rescue. Very good. Excellent. Let's see. Yes, likewise all. Okay. Yeah, I feel better. Yeah. I don't know if it was good stuff. It was barely adequate. It'll have to do. That's what it was. It was a little have to do. Yeah, I should say that to my pig, right? That'll have to do, pig. Yeah. It's just one change, one word, and it's a completely different phrase, right? That'll do. That'll just about have to be good enough, pig. That's barely good enough, pig. Yeah. Barely good enough. That's what we'll call it. All right. Till next time and such, so forth and whatnot. Oh, no, wrong way. I don't know if I can do it with this hand. Oh, I can do it with this hand. Live short and die happy. I should be able to do it. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, so I think I'll do a good volcanism. You're a fucktard. Just admit it and kill yourself. Okay. That's about right. Till next time.